Welcome back to the channel, Bridging the Gap Student to Engineer. It's an exciting time here at the last few weeks before students are having to commit to school. So we're going to be putting out a number of these videos looking at school data to help you with your last minute decisions. Today we're going to be talking about Georgia Tech and the data they have available on their website, and also looking at the rankings for the school to support what we're seeing with the numbers from the school. Georgia Tech makes their data available on their website for the Office of Academic Effectiveness. They do an annual survey report, just like all the other universities we've looked at. The way they present the data is pretty limited here, so I'll go through it and compare that to what we've seen elsewhere. So just to start out, they have average and median salary by degree level. Median salary, and this is for the entire school, so this is not just engineering. It is a pretty impressive number. They've got, we're going to go with median because I feel like that's more accurate than average, but we got $84,000 for bachelor's. One thing I think is interesting about Georgia Tech is their master's numbers jump up significantly. Some of the schools we look at, that master's number does not jump up significantly. So something that is interesting, but since we're focusing on bachelor's, I'll just look at the $84,000 number. It is a technical university, so that number is going to be higher than if you were looking at a liberal arts or a very general school that does all sorts of majors. But when we get down to degree program, so I filtered by bachelor's, and I'm just looking at this College of Engineering. Georgia Tech does have some other colleges that are related, and actually those majors might be in the College of Engineering and other schools, but we're just going to focus on engineering here. They do have computing as a separate school, although they do have computer engineering in their engineering school. And then their College of Design includes industrial design, architecture, and those types of things that are somewhat allied, but again, left out here. If you are interested in those, then please go to the link that I will provide in the comments. Okay, so they've got a number of different engineering majors offered. I'm going to skip the placement rate for now and just go to the median salary as the beginning point. So $81,000 is the median salary. That is about what we've been seeing in most other schools. These are most top tier and second tier schools. $81,000 is about right. So thinking that you're going to go to Georgia Tech and make a lot more money is probably not a good assumption. We're seeing these numbers elsewhere. But what I want to look at now is placement rate. So we've seen, let's just think back to the Purdue data, and I'll provide the link to the Purdue data right here. But the placement rate for Purdue is somewhere around 98.5%. 82% is significantly lower. That is not just, a few little data points because they have a different number of people replying or whatever. That is pretty significant difference. But if you look a little bit closer, you can see that it varies by major, with the lowest placement rate being in aerospace engineering. I've seen a lot of students and parents asking about aerospace because that's what the student wants to go into. Something to remember and something to be aware of when you're looking at aerospace as a future career opportunity is that you don't have to major in aerospace engineering to get into aerospace. Aerospace companies need all sorts of different kinds of engineers. So if you are looking at aerospace and you think maybe there's a possibility of go into something else, mechanical is a good option, or a number of other different things. So I'm a little bit concerned about the really low placement rate here in aerospace because it's more of a specialized engineering. You're tying yourself more to an industry than you would if you had some other majors. So something to consider. Not very far behind aerospace is biomedical. Again, a pretty specialized engineering. And then even with the more general engineering, we're aside from nuclear, which had 100% placement rate. There is a nuclear renaissance going on right now, so that's not super surprising. Although I am surprised by the lower salaries here. I would have expected them to be a little bit higher in nuclear. You'll often see nuclear being higher in other schools. But if you leave that off, all of these placement rates are, in the 90% range, which to me is not super high, and it concerns me a little bit. If you go through a program and you have a 1 in 10 chance of not being able to find a job when you're out, that's not very good. So I don't want to say all doom and gloom for Georgia Tech, but absolutely these numbers are concerning to me. Okay, if we go to the salary by state, this report is all about salary, but what we're going to do is pull out some other information from the salary data. So one thing we look at is through each school is how global are they, or how much of a presence do they have across the US. And the concern that I have there is if you go to a regional school and you want to go move to another state, how easy is it to find other people who graduated from there, find alumni who are looking for you, or to have how easy is it for you to get a job in another state. So if we start in Georgia, this is the number reporting salary, and this is not the number of grads who have landed there. So it can be a little bit less, I can be a little bit less confident in the data in general, but we'll just use it as it comes and just assume that the same percent response rate on everything. So Georgia Tech grads, you'd expect a lot to stay in Georgia. We've got 209. What we've seen in other schools is that a high percent will go to Texas, but the number reporting salaries in Texas is significantly lower than the 209 we saw in Georgia. And then we have a lot of grads going to California. Again, the percent of Georgia Tech grads that are going to California is not super high. And then Washington is usually another big employer, particularly in aerospace and those types of companies. We've got a lot of engineers going there, but again, Georgia Tech grads, the number are not very high over there. So I'm just going to go around all these other states. You can see most of them are under 10 reporting. And so while there are Georgia Tech grads going to these states, they're not necessarily in mass. And even states that are right around Georgia Tech are really not getting a lot of Georgia Tech grads. So I know that Georgia Tech has a good reputation, but the data that I'm seeing is not supporting that you'll have a high confidence of getting a good job right out of school, and that you'll be able to go anywhere you want to go with that. Okay, and now I'm going to go over to the salary by category tab. One thing that I like to look at is the industries that are hiring from a school. What Georgia Tech gives us is not the percent of students or even the number of students that are going to a different industry. They're just telling us what the salaries are in there. So it's really hard to tell if there are certain industries that really enjoy the grads from Georgia Tech and want to get them over to their companies. It's just telling you that if you do go to Georgia Tech and you go work for a government affiliated research institute, you'll be making more money than if you go to K through 12 education, for example. So that's not really very helpful. I've looked through all of these and not found a lot of useful data as far as determining if Georgia Tech's a good place to go if I wanted to get into a specific area. With the surprisingly low placement rates that I saw on the Georgia Tech website and the lack of information about industries, I did a little bit more digging to see if I could find anything else. I do want to point out that US News and World Report lists Georgia Tech as a tie for top 5 engineering schools. I'm just going to scroll through this so you can see what's on here. So despite what I'm seeing on the school's website, outside agencies are still ranking it very high. And considering that it is a really good place to to go to school. I don't have any information that I could find that would counteract what I was finding about the low placement rates, but it is something to consider. And understanding that what your job prospects are out of school is probably one of the most important things to look at when you're looking at a school. Probably more important than ranking, since getting a job is why you're going to school. You're not going to school so that you can have a highly ranked degree. So that's all the data that was available from Georgia Tech. I know it's somewhat limited, and I'm interested in hearing what you think was useful and what you wish you were able to find on this school. But please let me know what you think by leaving a comment, and also subscribe to the channel so you can get more of these.